Somewhere in the Nevada desert, a soldier clocks in for a 12-hour shift. By the time she clocks out, the sun has come up, gone down, and come up again. She hasn't left her chair for more than 10 minutes at a stretch. She has watched the same stretch of road for 6 hours straight, waiting for a truck that might never come. And when her replacement finally taps her on the shoulder, she has to remember how to be a person again before she drives home. This isn't a war movie. This is a Tuesday. Drone crews are supposed to be the safe job, the one without boots in the dirt or convoys or incoming fire. But ask anyone who has sat behind the controls of a Reaper or a Gray Eagle for a full rotation, and they'll tell you the danger just moved somewhere else. It's settled into the body, into the eyes, into the part of the brain that's supposed to shut off at some point and simply refuses. So how do you keep a human being sharp enough to make life or death calls for 18 hours in a row? How do you eat, sleep, and stay alert when your job has no natural stopping point? The answer says less about drones and more about the limits of the person flying them. Start with the shift itself, because it doesn't begin when you sit down. A crew reports 30 minutes to an hour before the clock even starts. There's a mass brief covering the weather, airspace restrictions, anything that's changed since yesterday. Then Intel walks each crew through the specific mission ahead, target areas, ground call signs, whatever the previous shift is handing off. And here's the part most people don't expect. Before anyone touches a control stick, someone checks how much sleep they got, how stressed they are, whether anything is off. If a crew member is running on fumes, that gets flagged before they ever sit down. The Air Force learned the hard way that a tired operator isn't just less effective. They're a liability with a missile rail attached. Then comes the handoff. The outgoing crew doesn't just walk away. The sensor operator, the one controlling the cameras and often the laser, swaps out first, then the pilot. One seat empties while the other fills, and the aircraft never stops flying. Somewhere over a war zone thousands of miles away, an engine that's been running for 16 straight hours doesn't know or care that the humans steering it just changed shifts. That's the job. Now here's the part nobody puts in the recruiting brochure, the actual mechanics of staying awake for it. The Human Performance Resource Center, the branch of the military that literally studies how to keep soldiers functioning, has a blunt way of putting it. Staying awake past your body's natural limit wrecks both your body and your mind, whether that's from a long shift, a bad clock, or both at once. Their fix isn't complicated. Nap when you can. Get sunlight. Move your body for a few minutes if you're crashing, and use caffeine like a tool instead of a habit, dosed in controlled amounts every few hours instead of chugged the second your eyes get heavy. That sounds simple until you realize how much research has gone into getting the timing right. Tactical caffeine protocols used across military and law enforcement units call for somewhere around 100 to 200 milligrams at the start of a shift, with a second dose 4 hours in if needed, and a hard cutoff 6 hours before the crew is supposed to sleep. Miss that cutoff, and you haven't solved your fatigue problem. You've just moved it to tomorrow. But caffeine has a ceiling. Researchers studying sustained attention have found something almost unsettling. Even in people who are well rested, focus starts breaking down after about 2 hours of watching a screen for something that might not happen. Caffeine can buy you maybe 1 more hour past that. After that, it's not a chemistry problem anymore. It's biology refusing to negotiate. Which is why the real fix isn't a pill. It's the nap. Military researchers call it the coffee nap. Drink your caffeine, then immediately lie down for a short sleep before the caffeine kicks in. By the time you wake up, the stimulant is just hitting your system, and you get a double reset instead of one. It sounds like a trick. It's backed by enough sleep science that multiple branches of the military build it directly into their fatigue guidance. And food matters more than people assume, too. Guidance for crews running prolonged operations is consistent across the board. Stay hydrated. Eat something that sustains you through the shift, and avoid heavy meals right before you're supposed to rest. A greasy meal before a nap doesn't refuel you. It just gives your body something to digest instead of something to recover from. On an 18-hour shift, that distinction is the difference between a functional nap and 45 wasted minutes lying in the dark, wide awake, digesting a burger. Here's where it gets harder to fix with a checklist, though. You can manage caffeine, you can time a nap. What you can't manage nearly as easily is what happens to a body that's supposed to sleep at night and instead spends its night wide awake watching a screen. A Government Accountability Office investigation into the drone pilot shortage found that crews were being rotated between day and night shifts every 5 to 8 weeks. The people actually treating these operators, the Human Performance Team at Creech Air Force Base, said that's nowhere near enough time. They recommended shifts stay fixed for 3 to 4 months at minimum, just so a person's internal clock has a chance to actually adjust. "5 to 8 weeks isn't long enough to adjust. It's just long enough to feel permanently jet-lagged, cycling back to night shift right around the time your body finally figured out how to sleep during the day. And that disruption doesn't stay at work. Ask any operator on a night rotation what a Saturday looks like. Either you blow up your sleep schedule to spend the day with your family, or you protect your rest and miss the soccer game, the birthday, the normal parts of being a person. There's no clean option. You're choosing which part of your life gets shortchanged this week and then renegotiating that same choice every few weeks when the rotation flips again. If you've ever pulled a rotating shift at any job and felt like your body never fully caught up, you already understand this on a smaller scale. Now imagine doing it while the stakes on the other side of your screen are measured in human lives, because that's the part that separates this from any other exhausting job. A tired warehouse worker might drop a box. A tired drone operator might misread a scene they've been staring at for 6 straight hours. And unlike almost every other high-stakes job in the military, there's no adrenaline to help carry them through it. No physical danger to keep the body sharp. Just a chair, a screen, and hour after hour of nothing happening, followed by the one moment where everything does. One former operator described the whiplash of it plainly. You can spend hours watching a group of people go about an ordinary day, only to have that day end in violence. You then have to sit and witness the aftermath of, all before driving home to pick up milk at the store. There's no runway to process what just happened. No flight home from a war zone giving you hours to decompress. No unit around you who already understands without needing an explanation. Just a commute, and then a driveway, and then a normal evening you're expected to have. Air Force studies have started catching up to what these crews already knew from experience. Burnout, psychological distress, and disrupted sleep show up across drone crews at rates that don't match the safe job reputation the role still carries in the public imagination. Some researchers now argue the standard treatment for combat trauma doesn't even fit what these operators are dealing with. It's not built around fear, the way trauma treatment usually assumes. It's built around something closer to moral weight, stacked hour after hour, shift after shift, with the added strain of constant surveillance and disrupted sleep layered underneath it. A soldier who spends months in a war zone can point to a single terrible day. A drone operator can spend years accumulating thousands of smaller ones, one shift at a time, with no deployment end date to mark where the weight stops adding up. If you've made it this far, you're probably starting to see why the military treats fatigue management as seriously as it does. This isn't wellness culture, it's operational necessity, built one nap and one caffeine dose at a time. We cover stories like this every week, the parts of military life that don't make it into the recruiting posters, so if that's the kind of thing you want more of, this is a good moment to subscribe. So what does a functioning shift actually look like once you put all of this together? It starts with sleep that's protected like a mission asset, not squeezed in around one. It runs on caffeine that's dosed with the same precision as any other tool in the crew's kit, not chugged out of desperation at hour 14. It includes naps that are planned, not accidental. It includes food chosen to sustain focus rather than induce a crash. And underneath all of it, it depends on a schedule that gives a person's body enough time to actually adjust, instead of yanking their internal clock in a new direction every few weeks. None of this makes the job easy. It just makes it survivable. And that might be the most honest way to describe the whole system. Nobody has figured out how to make an 18-hour surveillance shift comfortable. What the military has figured out, through decades of research and no small number of mistakes, is how to keep a person functional enough to make the right call at hour 17 instead of hour 3. The coffee nap, the caffeine cutoff, the protected sleep window, none of it is glamorous. It's maintenance. The same kind of maintenance that keeps the aircraft in the air applied to the person steering it. The drone doesn't get tired, it just runs until someone tells it to stop. The person behind the screen doesn't have that luxury. Every technique in this video exists because somebody, somewhere, learned what happens when a human being tries to operate like a machine and came up short. So here's the question worth sitting with. If the job of watching a screen for 18 hours can wear someone down this much, even without a single shot fired, what does that say about the actual cost of modern warfare? The kind that never puts a single boot on the ground?